Rats eat eggs.
Hello, everybody. This podcast is Lava. My name is James Font. With me, as always, Sam Shoemaker, and this other guy right here for the very
Who
first
is he?
time.
Why is he so tall? Is he a giant?
I think he's a
We're
giant.
going to be talking about that today.
Standing at 6'7".
Mainly from my legs.
6'7". We have Gregory Lee Andrews.
Or was that 7'6"? We'll never know.
So today's a little bit different. We've been doing a lot of interviews recently, and so we're going to step away from that. We're going to go back to our roots. We've almost been doing this a year, Sam. Did you know that?
That's crazy.
Almost a year. And we're going to go back to some of our fan favorites, a Myths and Legends episode. So this is Pennsylvania's Myths and Legends, brought to you by Sam Shoemaker and Gregory.
Because James did not do research.
I didn't do any research because that's not my job.
Here's the thing.
But hey, you know what? This is consistent. This is consistent content. You have remained consistent at not doing research this entire podcast, and I love it.
You know what else I've also been consistent at? Uploading.
Releasing the
Uploading
podcast,
the podcast.
editing the podcast. You know what? I'm not saying it's unappreciated. Just saying that's consistent, and I admire that. I admire consistency.
I appreciate your admiration. I turned my earphones down too low.
So, guys, as we started off with every podcast of a Myths and Legend nature before, what does the name of Pennsylvania mean?
Pennsylvania means a place where you keep your pens in your veins.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought it'd be more interesting than that, or than the name that it actually is, because like you think of
What does Pennsylvania mean, Sam?
Well, I'll tell you, but I want to say
Greg, you didn't say anything yet.
Well, you guys don't give me a chance.
Greg,
Allow me to
break in. Just
I'm just gonna. You just lay it on you right now. Pennsylvania stands for a city full of pens.
No. Okay, what is a pen? P-E-N-N. It's a pennant, which is a triangle flag.
get out.
The bell.
Am I not?
Bell.
I'm right. I'm right.
The bell is not shaped in a triangle, so obviously it is not that.
Well, this was what I was thinking in my head.
This train already exploded. Continue.
Transylvania, right? The home of
Dracula.
Dracula.
Of Bat Guy.
I don't know what that means anymore because Pennsylvania.
Didn't he have a hotel?
That's a movie.
He had 3 hotels.
He had 3. One
No.
was a cruise ship,
It was technically just one hotel, and he just had 3
I
movies.
understand.
and then one was a
I'm not-
crappy
He
spin-off
doesn't
on a
have
boat.
3 hotels, sir.
That's not how movies work, Greg.
So,
Yes,
Myth and
yes, it
Legend, does the Count Dracula have 3 hotels, or just a cruise ship, or just 3 movies?
Or is it all the Matrix?
It's all the Matrix. Okay, so Pennsylvania, right? It actually stands, or it means rather, Penn's Woodland, as in the possessive Penn's Woodland.
Penn's Woodland. What does that mean?
It was a Quaker man named William Penn. He was actually given the land by, King Charles II of England in 1681 as some sort of repayment for a debt that was owed him from the crown. Now, this was actually one of the 13 original colonies of America. So that actually gives us a little bit more juicy goodness to go with because it's been around a lot longer. So there's a lot more people that have been there to tell
Made up
folktales.
stories.
Folktales.
I mean, myths and legends.
Yeah, because, a lot of the stories that I was researching today, and well, not today, I mean this whole week, because I wouldn't do research just today.
Every college student ever.
Who are we kidding? I would do research like throughout the entire week, because that's how I do it. These have been planned for months in advance.
We never wait for the deadline.
No. So, some of the coolest stories are clearly fake, or just...
Well, of course. Well, it's like the story of... why can't I think of his name?
Bigfoot.
No, something Boone. I'm losing my
Daniel
mind.
Boone was a
Daniel
man.
Boone. I wanted to say Paul Boone. I was like, that's 2 things.
Paul
Paul
Bunyan.
But there's different Daniel Boone books. There's like he was a real person, right?
Yeah.
Okay. see,
Or Davy Crockett was. One of them is fake, one of them is real, I think. Or maybe they're both real, but one of them
One of
maybe-
us
them
has a
died at the
laptop to
Alamo.
look it up.
maybe it was Davy Crockett. But anyways, there was a book where it was a tall tales of Davy Crockett or Paul Boone. Paul Boone? Gosh dang it.
Davy Crockett
You suck at
or
this.
Daniel Boone.
Daniel Boone.
And it was like, he was born with hair on his chest, and he
Killed
went
him
out
a
and-
bear when he was only 3.
Yeah.
That's the song.
Okay,
Sounds
so,
like
so
Chuck
that
Norris.
was what it was. Yes.
No, I mean,
he is Chuck Norris.
I think both of them actually were real, but then like the TV show and movies that came out about the characters inflated them, because they're like, oh, they're like the wilderness. They're like the men who foraged the West, kind of.
Real quick plug.
Oh, we're gonna do a plug.
Do you guys
Drink water
or any kind of beverage and put it down on your nice wood countertops?
or fake press board like this.
You can't see that. But anyways, would you prefer to set it on a coaster?
I
This
would.
podcast is lava coaster.
Wow!
Wow, so many
Wow.
coasters.
Look at this coaster.
So
It's so round that you could put a cup on it.
if you would like your very own This
Wow.
Podcast is Lava coaster, be sure to message us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at thispodcastislava@gmail.com and give us your email address.
Your street address.
Sorry, your street address or PO box, and we will send you 1 to 7 of these very cool.
Amazing.
I burped too much. These very, very cool coasters. So be sure to pick yourself up one today.
Side effects may include nausea, vomiting, throwing up, headaches, back pain, lower back pain, femur breaking.
Especially if
I
your
hope
name is Penny.
I hope that you just cut that like right as I start to say something, so that it's just like side effects may include cut. Anyways,
Too
yeah.
many.
So, for instance, this is a great myth and legend that was immediately debunked. Basically, there was this rumor of the green glowing man, or like the green mist man, and
Was he from Fallout 76?
he was a glowing one from Fallout 76.
Wow.
No, what he actually was a childhood burn victim.
Okay.
His
That's
face,
way more
his
tragic.
face was completely melted off.
That's way more
And
tragic.
So he would only go out at night to walk his dog and to just go outside. And he did that to not scare the neighbors and such. But people would see him as they're driving down the street in their cars, and they would think that they'd just seen some sort of monster or ghost. And so this legend popped up around him. It turned out it was just a very nice young man who was horribly deformed as
And
a
being
child.
very respectful of his neighbors and not to frighten them.
Yes, there was actually a news article about him that said that he was a very kind, gentle spirit, but he was just, he did not want
He
to
was
alarm
disfigured
people.
at a
Yeah.
young age. That's
And-
tragic and also heartwarming.
So as with like Ohio, also there's a lot of stories of like the elusive lost gold treasure, like buried out in the woods, buried up in the hills. The typical story.
Yeah. There's
And
gold everywhere.
There's gold everywhere, and it's always, pirate treasure or something like that. There's a story in particular that I found where a soldier was carrying payroll, and supposedly he was robbed by Indians, traveling alone with payroll. And
That sounds normal. That
Right,
sounds that
right,
seems
right.
legit.
And then he gets back to his unit, he's like, oh, I was robbed, and they question him intensely, and they never found the treasure, and then he was killed in action later on. And I don't see that as like a myth or a legend. I see that as more the guy took the payroll for himself, buried it somewhere, intended to
then
come back,
died.
and then he got the not alive. So I will say this as a preface, as something to get you excited and interested in this episode. There is a very interesting story about lost gold and treasure that will be the height of the crescendo.
The antithesis?
No, that would mean the opposite.
I know. Actually, no, the antithesis is like the truest meaning of something. So it's not the pinnacle. It would be the
Don't-
pinnacle of what it is.
Yeah, it's the pinnacle of this episode. Anyways, Greg, what did you have for myths and legends?
So actually, I found multiple stories through the website and internet. Some of the stories that I found one of them was about the 7 gates of hell.
Ooh, I read about that.
Ooh,
It's
in Pennsylvania, because that is such.
That is hell on earth.
Yeah.
no,
Actually, very pretty.
it is very pretty. So with this story goes along with 2 side stories that lead into it. And so there are 2 things. One was a insane asylum, and then the other one was a psychotic doctor that.
As all good stories start.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think about it, all doctors back then were psychotic because they're like, "So we need your dead bodies."
So like, what if we like took out the bad blood and we gave it to someone we wanted to die? Let's
So,
take
like-
out your bad blood and give you
so
some.
what if we
leeches.
took all of your blood out and then replaced it with pond water? Let's see what happens.
I have this great idea with your body. Don't mind me just, working on it. Just allow me to do whatever I need to it.
So if I took
You
an
could
ice
die.
pick through your eye and removed some of your brain bits, what if you were not psychotic
Hey, so you
anymore?
know how depression is a thing? Not if I lobotomize you.
Not if I like take out the entire front of your brain and just kind of like turn it into mashed potatoes.
All right, so who wants to go? Who wants to go first?
I really don't care.
I'll start off light.
All right, so Sam is going to start off. Is this a myth or a legend? Or is it both?
This is a
Hold on, what's the difference?
mythical wonder of the world.
I'm still waiting for an answer.
Is
Sam.
LeBron a legend or a myth? Is Michael Jordan a legend or a myth?
a legend?
Okay, so a legend is someone who is cool and did something, or it's an actual thing, is what under my opinion. And a myth is like it could be true or it's not.
Right, like
Well, I'm just trying to get your opinion on this. That's what
The
I was asking.
Iliad-
What's your opinion?
the
on it?
Iliad and the Odyssey are myth. Right? Like they're tales that you tell around a campfire. A legend, I feel like, is more a legendary tall tale.
Like a story that came from something true, and then sometimes bits and pieces of the story get distorted, but it's still
Like telephone. You know,
some sort
yeah,
of truth.
Yeah. That's what I would view it as. And then,
Anyways.
of course, we also have like the buried treasure. So we have kind of a third element to it all.
Ooh.
This one is hard to kind of classify, but have either of you ever heard of Gravity Hill?
No,
Nope.
I have not heard of Gravity Hill.
The cool thing is
Pennsylvania.
it's not a location in Pennsylvania specifically.
And why are you talking about it?
There are multiple places called Gravity Hill, or
Is the gravity really dense there or not?
the gravity is reversed there.
Whoa.
And the cool thing is I've actually been there. Now,
What was it like?
That's exciting, dude.
the Gravity Hill that I was at is different. I think there's like approximately 3 or 4 across Pennsylvania. And the one I was at, there was a postman who parked his car for lunch at the bottom of a hill,
And then went upside down?
didn't set the parking brake,
Oh, no.
and began to roll up the hill.
What if he didn't set the parking brake and it just went straight up?
Well, I guess gravity decided not to work today. Imagine that. Just what the
But if he would have set the parking brake, it would have been fine. No, that's weird. So supposedly it went up the hill.
It goes up the hill.
That's
and,
interesting.
And you know,
I mean, that goes along with the earth is flat.
how?
Because in that particular area, it's a little slanted. So it's just flat, and there's one flat plane.
It still doesn't make sense, though.
No, it doesn't.
I was like, where are you
I
going with
suppose
this?
maybe it's like he tipped the balance of the flat Earth, so the Earth went like this, and then he starts going up the hill.
Well, I actually
Ah.
watched a show one time called Fact or Faked, and it had a similar story to this where there was this school bus that stopped at this like railroad crossing, and then they they left it in neutral because they were just sitting there and they didn't have their foot on the brake, and then the bus was rolling into the
Intersection?
Yeah.
Or the railroad?
Yeah, and then a train hit the bus and killed a bunch of passengers. Well, then later, people are trying to see whether or not this is real or not, and so they would park their car on the top of the hill, and then they would just leave it in neutral, and then their car would start rolling up the hill. But then they tested it, and what was
Whoa.
actually happening was all the trees in that area were leaning, like it was an optical illusion. It was making it seem like that area was going uphill when
But
really
it was actually going downhill.
yes.
Whoa.
Well, that's the leading theory for all these gravity hills as well. At least that's the rational theory that goes on with it.
It takes away from the name when it's like all of these gravity hills.
Are optical illusions.
Yeah. Well, we went.
Or yeah.
My mom and I went to this like I don't know. It was like kind of like a cosi, but it was outside.
Okay, like a fun house kind of thing where everything's like upside down, or like the small rooms and stuff like that.
We stood on this even plane, and there were 2 bricks, and they were side by side, and they were even. And so, at the time, I was shorter than my mom, and so we would stand on these bricks, and she would obviously be taller, and then I would be shorter, and then we would change bricks, and I would be taller than her, and she'd be shorter than me.
Is it because the room?
It wasn't a room; it was outside.
Really?
It was weird. I think it was because it was like on the peninsula, or like.
Okay.
It was something really weird like that.
On the equator?
On the equator, not a peninsula.
Weird.
So, well, see,
it was on a peninsula, therefore
there is weird things like that where when you're on the equator, water does not spin when it goes down a drain. If you're on one side of the equator, it spins counterclockwise. If you're on the other side of the equator, it spins clockwise. Just weird things with the way the Earth works. There is an optical illusion where if you have a room that is built like this, the ceiling and the floor go like this, and you have someone stand here.
What
and
is this there for our audio listeners?
If I don't know how to explain it, you have to look up the optical illusion room. Basically, it's where if 2 objects that are the exact same size are placed in the opposite corners of the room, when you look straight on at them, one looks smaller and one looks larger because of the way the shape of the room, the floor slants and the ceiling slants, and it makes the 2 objects appear different size. But when you take them and you slide them towards each other, they become the same size. And if they pass and go to the opposite corners, then they switch. Yeah. And it's all just your mind playing with your sense of reality. So Gravity Hill, and I've been there, you get out of your car and you immediately start to lean. You actually lean what appears to be the wrong way. And then if you take water out, let's say you take like a bottle of water, you pour it on the ground, it starts going uphill, or what you perceive to be uphill.
That's weird.
We tried this. We had and somewhere on one of our old computers, we have actual video footage of it. And even on the video, there's some video that I've seen where in the video, the way the camera is capturing it, it really shows like, okay, this could be, actually downhill or up. Like this could, kind of the way your eye perceives it and the way the camera perceives it is different. And so sometimes the camera footage almost makes it look like it properly should be, that you actually are rolling downhill and that you're not rolling uphill.
Then you have no depth perception. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
It might have something to do with it. But in the video, it looks like we are going uphill. Like it looks like we are going up at a 45-degree angle, like up a hill in this car in neutral. The water would go uphill. You'd drop a ball. The ball would roll uphill. My uncle rode his motorcycle there, and when he went to park his motorcycle, he leaned it on the kickstand, and it fell over the opposite way. Like it's leaning, towards the kickstand to rest the bike, and it falls over away from the kickstand.
That's so weird.
Yeah, I think he broke like a very expensive mirror. I don't remember if that's true or not, but so Gravity Hill, there's a couple different ones. If you Google it, they can give you coordinates. These aren't locations that are like touristy. The one we went to was literally the back of a stop sign that said Gravity Hill this way. Someone had spray painted on it. And then when you got to the actual physical location of the hill, there was a spray paint line that said start here. And essentially, you put your car on that line, put it in neutral, and you'd roll uphill.
That's so cool.
It is really wild. And apparently, I always thought there was just the one in Pennsylvania, but doing research, there's a couple. And to make things more interesting, there is one that I believe there's like some on this spot sometime back in history, somebody murdered their cheating spouse, and like that's why the gravity's this way. But it happens multiple places, and not all of them have some interesting, cheating lover murder mystery. So I think that the optical illusion is the most.
Why does it always have to be some cheating lover family?
Because it's more interesting. It's intriguing. It's drama.
What if I just wanted to kill my brother, and then made that a horror movie story?
Well, we would have it recorded here, and that'd be evidence.
That sounds like a really boring horror movie for some reason.
I don't know why I'm so crouched down.
So my brother wants to kill me for no reason. Like literally no reason. Like
the trailer comes out, a man wants to kill his brother For no reason.
A man
Pretty
that
much.
has billions of dollars and his brother that also has billions of dollars because they invested in the same stock.
Here's the thing. It would actually sound better if the brother had no money, and so the billionaire just wanted to kill his brother for no reason. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. All of this sounds weird.
Greg, what is your first myth and or legend?
My first myth is the 7 gates of hell.
The 7. So
7 gates of hell.
why does hell need so many gates?
Well, the story behind it is if you pass through all 7 gates, you are teleported straight to hell.
Bro, why would you want to do that?
No idea.
Because according to a lot
Well,
of
you
people,
know what they say, James?
What?
Curiosity put the cat in hell.
Yeah, my dad said that all the time.
Right? This is everyone.
Every time I'd be like, "So, Dad, what are you doing?" He'd be like, "You know, James, curiosity put the cat in hell." And I went, "Oh yeah, Dad, that makes sense."
You went to
That's
Google
why
and
we
you
have a dog.
you went to Google and you were going to look up something real bad, and then you just remembered. Curiosity put the cat in hell.
Then I realized I'm not a cat.
Ah.
So then what happened to all the cats in Egypt then? Did they go through the gates?
Now the question is not whether all dogs go to heaven, because all good boys go to heaven. But do all cats aren't 100% evil? Do they just go to purgatory? Next time on this podcast is lava.
We'll talk about supernatural.
So anyways, 7 gates of hell.
So
The train exploded.
Yep. The myth behind this is that no living person has passed through more than 5 gates and has lived to tell the tale.
So what happens to them?
No idea. Either they die, or they just go missing, or people are just insane and they just like to make up stuff. So
I'm gonna go with the last one. So
probably. But I mean, for me personally, I feel curious enough to like, hey, let's go test this out and let's just go through all 7 gates and see what happens.
where are all 7 gates?
There used to be gates like built to show where they're at, but because of so many people going to Pennsylvania, to the small town to see where they're at, the town got annoyed of people coming, and so they're just like, we're gonna take these gates down.
Oh, we don't want these tourists that could give us money. Ugh, I hate this.
Because most of the gates are on private land, and so then
okay, that makes more sense.
yeah,
It's like
so,
geocaching.
pretty much. So they're like, and you know what?
Geocaching to get to hell. It's like, okay, gate 1 is at coordinates 18 to 33, 47. You have to go past 7 trees to the left, hang a right at the rusted old car. You'll find the first gate right there. Snap a picture of yourself when you go through it. Gate number 2.
The keys for the Bugatti is in gate 3. If you go there and make it through all 3 gates, then you might be able to get the keys for the Bugatti.
And on the 4th gate, you can, if you snap a picture, you'll get a small picture. You'll be able to see Lucifer's hoof.
Holy crap.
So
I just realized something, right? Halo 3. I would be your daddy's skull. Do you remember you had to jump through the 7 Halo rings in a specific order to get that skull? Does anyone else remember Halo 3 skull hunting? Because that...
No, I never skull hunted because I hated skull hunting.
I hated it too, but if
7
you...
gates of hell.
Halo 3. Guys, Halo 3 is from the devil.
Did you guys ever play Dante's Inferno? Came out in 2009. It was a great game. I think literally 6 people played that game.
But everybody played Halo 3.
I wasn't one of the 6.
I was. It was a great game.
But back to my story. So, with so many people coming to the town as a tourist attraction to go through the gates, then they're like, you know what, we're going to take these down. So they took down the gates. Now, the story behind this and how there are gates there is for 2 reasons. 1, an insane asylum, and 2, a psychotic doctor. And so with the insane asylum, they said that there were a lot of inmates there that people practiced on, stuff like that.
Practice what on?
Practiced on the patients, different
Practice what?
medications or different, basically which doctor practices and stuff
Real
like
quick,
that.
as a college student, did you ever go through any practicing, like supposedly back in, I think it was the 70s? No, that's way too long ago. early 2000s or whatever, you could, as a college student, you could get paid money to try out different sedatives and whatnot.
I never tried that.
You've never heard that?
No,
That's
I haven't.
horrible.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm good. So back to my story. With that, they would practice on these people and stuff. But then there was a fire that happened at this asylum, and because it was in a remote location, like in the dense forest there, the firefighters were not able to get to it in time.
Oh no.
And so these people were able to either escape, or they died in the fire, or they were beaten to death by the township. And so
Oh my.
because of this, then it opened up the gates of hell.
I like how that one incident, like out of all of the horrible incidents that
Right.
probably happened in Pennsylvania, that one doesn't. No, that makes sense actually. So what they're saying is the 7 gates to hell are in Pennsylvania.
Pretty much.
That explains so much.
No, it doesn't.
Sam, what does it
They
explain?
should open in Alabama
I don't know.
or
It's a
Arkansas
lovely state. I feel
or
like
Georgia.
if anywhere, the 7 gates of hell should be
No,
No,
like,
it
actually, it
shouldn't-
should be in Cali.
It really shouldn't be in Georgia because
South
the
Cali.
devil lost a fiddle fight down there, and so he's done going to Georgia.
The devil lost a fiddle fight. That sentence needs to be a T-shirt. The devil lost a fiddle fight.
oh,
So
jeez.
the other story behind the 7 gates of hell is that there was a psychotic doctor working on patients, and
What is the definition of psychotic?
crazy. I don't
Every
know.
doctor ever in the
Okay,
19th
I
century.
just want to see what your answer would be.
But he was practicing on different people and patients and stuff like that to basically
Hey,
summon
So, like,
demons.
what if you put like an arm on their chest?
Hey,
right? I mean, like, what would happen then? Like, what if their belly
Hey.
button had a leg?
Hey guys, you know how you're alive? What if we took out all your veins?
Yeah.
Well, that would
While
be
you're
very-
alive, let's see if we can you know how they
Who are
do
you referencing?
nobody.
Oh.
It's just you know how they make those computers that all the circuits are out? What if we did that with you?
Guys, what if you didn't have feet?
Sounds like a
I-
great idea, James.
The question, okay, so we're psychotic doctors. I think all doctors are a little bit crazy because, in a good way, because I appreciate you.
How many hours they have to spend in the books?
I appreciate
Alone?
I appreciate doctors. I'm very happy we have them, but you are all insane because you have to look at the inside of people,
And you're okay with it. Like,
and you're okay with it.
you're just like, huh, that's a kidney.
This is normal.
That's a stomach.
I forget where I was going with that. Anyways,
Everyone's a little
psychotic
psychotic.
doctor.
So he would practice on these patients and try summoning demons and different
Oh, sounds like my doctor.
Yep, pretty much. Just hold on, James. I'm gonna slit your wrist real quick. Is it nothing?
This is a summoning spell. I mean procedure. I mean, not a summoning procedure. It's So we're trying to summon Satan.
You might feel some drafts of wind, or maybe I don't know, just like the occasional
You might smell some sulfur. Here's some salt.
You might
If you-
feel
if you-
somebody trying to possess you. Just don't worry about it. It's all right.
If you feel anything burning, just don't tell me about it. It's fine. If you feel a little bit warm, toasty, like there's a fire nearby, don't worry about
I feel angelic.
it. If you feel like if you look over and you see me like sitting in the middle of a pentagram with candles all around, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's
If
how
you
we
see horns on somebody, don't worry about it.
fine.
That's a whole other conversation.
But
That's just Sam talking to me on a normal basis.
we worry
The
about him a
horns
lot.
or
No, if you ever see me sitting in a pentagram, don't worry about it.
hello, James. Hi.
Sam's in the Walmart parking lot.
In the toy aisle.
I'm saying, why are you holding
Wait,
that
what?
chalk? Don't worry about it.
Anyways,
I want that early release.
So the township obviously has been disbanding these stories and saying that they're fake and that you don't actually go to hell.
Well, I say we take a
There's one way
podcast
to
road
find-
trip.
There's one way to find out. Greg, you're going to go through the 7 gates. Let us know what you find out.
Goes straight to hell.
Why can't we
Calls
just
us. Okay, guys, this is pretty lit.
That was lame. Click.
guys? I'm on gate 4. I'm really scared to go through gate 5. There's a lot of skeletons here, and I'm just really scared.
See, because I heard that no one made it through gate 5. I don't know if you mentioned that before, but like no one made it through gate 5 and lived.
It's interesting.
So let's make it through gate 7 and work our way backwards.
No, you have to go in a specific order, Sam.
So it's exactly like the I Would Be Your Daddy skull in Halo 3.
Pretty much. But nobody else knows that, Sam, because nobody else played Halo 3.
Oh.
Except for millions and millions and millions of
Yeah,
people.
Except for whoever made it like the top selling game in 2005 or whenever that came out.
I mean, whatever.
2007. How can you not remember that?
I don't know my years.
He only remembers specific
2005,
parts about
Revenge of
Halo
the
3.
Sith is released. 2007, Halo 3 is released. It's very easy to confuse the two best things that happened to me in my life.
Those are two completely separate things.
So, Randy, you don't matter. That's all I heard.
What year did I get married?
2003?
I don't remember.
Dang, you've been married a minute. Anyways. Sorry.
I was 6.
I mean, that's pretty much the end of my story. So,
Bro, that was sick.
it's
We cut you off constantly.
pretty much. But I mean, it's a very interesting story. Now, as a white person, as my girlfriend would say, we are very curious, and this is why we die a lot in horror movies.
That's true.
I've seen that meme where it's like white people in horror movies are like, Jessica, where are you at? Oh, I gotta go find Jessica. And it's like black people in horror movies, screw Jessica, she's dead.
I like the, I think it's the State Farm commercial where it's like a bunch of college students trying to hide from a serial killer. And they're like, quick, we gotta find some place to hide. He's like, look, there's a running car right there.
I love it.
And they're like, no, let's go hide behind that wall of running chainsaws.
And the murder's just like right there, like.
And he's
what
like behind him and he's
the-
just like, yeah, he's like, what the heck?
This is too easy.
State Farm.
Shocked Pikachu face. What?
But
So Sam, what else? Oh wait,
I
sorry.
was
No.
gonna say, as a curious white guy, I really want to go test this theory out just to see if I go through
If you go, invite me. I'll probably be down.
5 gates, see if I will still live, and if I can make it through a 6th gate.
Imagine this though, right? What if, okay, so you figure out the specific order. And you said they're all in different people's land.
Mm-hmm.
What if the 5th gate was on a serial killer's land?
Dude.
And so no one makes it through the 5th gate because he just waits there with whatever his weapon of choice is and just kills whoever walks through that gate. He's like, hey, you want to go to hell?
Well, it would have to be a family of serial killers because obviously this myth has been around for a long time. So
Maybe
this guy would have to be raising sons and daughters of serial killers and be
I'm
like,
sure people do.
all right, guys, this is
You
the
know?
plan. So you're going to grow up and you're going to live only to kill people that go through that gate right
Your
there.
sole purpose in life is to send people through this gate
What
and then kill them.
What is this accent?
I
you're
don't
saying?
know.
Go back down
let's,
south.
Let's go. We got to figure out the. So my next myth and or legend is supposedly the most haunted house in early America.
Oh, in early America,
Yes.
not even Roanoke, because that was a house.
Yeah, not even the House of
What?
Roanoke. So I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Congelier or Congelier. It's spelled Congelier. Congelier. I'm going to call it Congelier for the entirety of this episode. I'm sorry if I butchered it. What were you saying, James?
No.
Okay. So Congelier Mansion or Congelier House is called the house the devil built.
Oh no.
And it's right in the middle of those 7 gates.
Sam, real quick. Sam, real quick. Did you know that Chuck Norris was born in a cabin he built with his own hands?
That's amazing.
So this is
Did you know
The
that
devil.
Chuck Norris wasn't born? He just stopped wearing his mother.
You know, I have never seen Daniel Boone and Chuck Norris in the same room. We're on to something.
Guys, this is the real conspiracy.
We just overlooked Sam's great joke. Anyways, the Congelier.
The Congelier Mansion. So, this house was built back in the 1870s, right? You know, it's a happy house, happy life, happy, people. But tragedy strikes. The lovely, happy married couple and their child that lived there have tragedy
Oh,
in the
no.
form of, as you would guess, the man cheating on the woman.
Oh no!
He sleeps with the maid.
Is it Arnold Schwarzenegger?
How did you guess?
In 1870?
Yeah, 1871.
He ages really well.
Dang.
So the original owner was Charles Wright Congolier, and he was having an affair with the maid.
Oh no.
So
Must be rich.
wouldn't you know it? When his wife found out, he was killed. She stabbed him, and then she
What?
cut off the mistress's head.
What?
Mm-hmm.
First off, why would you get a maid or approve of a maid that is very beautiful?
Well, how do we know that she was beautiful? Maybe she was
Whoa.
hideous, and he just was like,
I'm tired of you. I'm gonna go.
maybe
with
he
this
just
lady.
had a weird, he's just like, you know what?
He has a golem fetish.
Yeah, or he has a maid fetish, and it didn't matter what the maid looked like. Maybe they had a really strong heart connection, and the wife just wasn't. They weren't committed that way. I don't know.
Maybe he was just drunk one night,
Maybe it was a made up story just to add to like myth and legend about this house
like
and
what
sell
Sam
tickets.
normally does.
So, as you might guess, these gruesome murders that take place at that time, that's not very common. Like brutal murder. Murder's probably pretty common. Murder, but not murder where the head is cut off. It's more grisly, more gruesome than typical murders at the time. So, the house is not really able to be sold. No one really wants it because of what happened in it, and supposedly there's an evil aura around the house.
Have you ever
surrounding it.
rented an apartment? All sorts of horrible, evil stuff has gone inside
Yeah,
apartments.
living.
Would you like to hear
living in
about
one currently.
my story?
In 1 second, let him finish his.
So it was then purchased by a railroad company, and it was a place for the workers to stay. But they soon moved out because they would hear blood-curdling screams coming out of the walls.
Maybe it was
Sam in the
just
bathroom.
Carl with his night terrors.
Exactly. PTSD from the War of 1812.
Sam in the shower.
Oh, guys, it's Carl.
So then, once again, the house was left empty until 1901 when it was purchased by a doctor. A nice, sweet doctor. Kind, innocent doctor that's definitely not psychotic like Greg's last story. Wouldn't do anything terrible. He was kind of a recluse, and the neighbors would not really see him. But then all of a sudden, one night, those things changed. The neighbors heard screaming and ran to see what was happening at the house of mystery. Ooh.
Doctor, what's going on? Is that the way they asked him when they're running over?
Doctor, this isn't a bathtub, it's a pool.
Wait, what? This isn't a pool.
This isn't a beach.
Bathtub.
This isn't a beach, it's a bathtub.
Nobody told me this. What?
So, to their shock upon investigating the house, there was suddenly like a violent shaking of the ground around them. The house was like the sidewalks were cracking, the windows shattered, all the windows in the house shattered, and a bright light seemed to like burst throughout the house. It was aliens. Well, that all settles, right? The house is still standing. Maybe it was an earthquake, Maybe it was 2012 happening, the movie 2012.
In 1871.
1871.
Oh no, the Mayans were really off.
Darn you, Mayans! As they fall into a hole in the ground. But no, when they investigated the house after that, they actually found a decomposing body of a woman strapped to a bed.
Whoa.
Then they also found 5 more bodies, all of them beheaded, in the basement.
Okay, real quick. So you said at the top of this that there's not many grisly murders back then. But I think the fact is actually, I think the thing is actually, they just weren't reported. I think people were dying left and right, and that people were just saying, oh, they just left. Oh, they just ran away. Because there was no communication back then. There was no reason. There's no record of grisly murder, because why would there be a record of grisly murder? People just literally got away with murder for no reason.
Exactly.
Because it's the 1870s and nothing is happening on the law enforcement side because America's barely 100 years old.
in my opinion, the
No,
world.
It's not even 100. America was not even 100 years old in 1871.
Mm-hmm. Very, very early on. Very early on. Definitely a lot of brutal murders.
But nothing. People
Not
are
exactly a clean record.
People are like, oh, the world's getting worse in 2019. No, it's been way worse.
Like, in my opinion, like the world is just the same, if not
We
like
just
either.
have better medicine now.
Well, I was gonna say we have the media that just
We got legal weed, bro.
Yeah.
the media is
We
able
never
to
had that before.
spread any story across the entire world in like 2 seconds.
And the thing
Yeah.
is, that's
Yeah.
the problem with media. A lot of media is it's either super far right or super far left, and you don't know what's actually the real news.
And because of our like attention span problem,
I got bored of what you were saying.
exactly the new problem
Quit talking.
that came about with this new generation of media is it's not about being right. It's about being first.
Yep.
So if you have the story and you can break it and you can be like, breaking headline, big bad thing happened in the world today. This person is bad. We should hate them. That goes massively public. Everyone shares it on their Facebook. But then
It's
let's
like
say
Kevin Spacey.
I have no idea. But like 3 days later, right, the corrected news story comes out and you realize, oh, there's another side to this story. Things aren't so bad as they seem. Maybe the person that everyone hated may not have been so bad after all. Yeah, and then that corrected story gets put out there, but then it's already covered over by the next big headline. And so half the people that shared the initial inflated story never see that there's a corrected version, and they go around believing that crazy story. So
Yep.
it's just, yeah, you don't hear about all these big bad murders because a lot of them just happen in local newspapers, and they're like, so-and-so killed their so-and-so, and so-and-so happened. And then it wasn't a national world news media thing going down.
Let me go deliver this newspaper from Pennsylvania all the way over to California, which isn't even like a. I don't know.
Exactly. So,
You're good at geography.
yeah.
I don't do history.
So,
I just do numbers.
So what else about the mansion, Sam?
well, it's that's kind of where the horrificness of occurrences stops. But the
Decomposing woman's body found on top of a bed, strapped there.
the
The doctor's
hauntings
Dr. Doofenshmirtz held
Don't
responsible.
use his name in vain.
yes, apparently the platypus.
He was trying to take over the tri-state area.
What if I took you to my
From
basement?
one house.
So
Dr. Doofenshmirtz, the R-rated movie.
actually, though, imagine this, right? G.I. Joe's Dr. Mindbender, but it's an R-rated psycho thriller.
Like the newest Joker.
Yeah, where he like tortures the people. Because in the original comics of G.I. Joe, Dr. Mindbender took innocent civilians and then tortured them until their minds were broken and then made them into the Cobra Troopers. It's dark, but it's just like it's hidden away in the comics.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That is dark.
Dude, Cobra was bad.
How many cared back in those days? They're like, oh, this is cool.
This is the 70s. My dad did that with MK Ultra.
Also, kind of funny. Have you ever watched the comedy?
Kind of funny.
Have you ever watched the comedy Dodgeball with Ben Stiller?
I don't think I have.
I'm not a huge fan of that style of comedy, but it was on TV at a place that we were at, and so we watched it. It's about these competing gyms that duel in a dodgeball competition, and it's the average Joes versus the
Professional dodgeball players?
versus the other team. Well, they have gyms like fitness gyms, and then they go into this competition to see who wins because the one is like really big and powerful and is trying to buy the other one, basically.
Okay.
So there's the average Joes, and then I forget what the other one was, but
Up next, the average Joe.
right. So the one team names themselves the Average Joes, and the other gym names themselves the Cobras, and their emblem is literally just like a slight ripoff of the G.I. Joe and
Oh my
Cobra
gosh.
logo. And I noticed that, and I'm like, they're referencing G.I. Joe versus Cobra. They're referencing. I was really happy.
Yeah, that took me too long to put together.
It's
The
a-
average
Joes. Well, because in the
Nerd
comics
alert.
they called them Joes. They
Hey,
weren't G.I. Joes.
Shut
They
up,
were
jock.
Yo Joe.
So, Sam, what else do you have for us about this mansion.
So next, and I forgot, I should mention as I'm going through this, there is a little bit more horror that takes place.
Dear.
It did pretty. The place gets bought up by a gas company to again house workers.
Oh no.
And as at first all these strange occurrences were written off as just like,
oh no.
employees being disgruntled.
I'm so angry I'm going to poop on the floor. But it's actually the ceiling.
You wake up, there's just a guy pooping on the ceiling.
That would be terrifying.
He's just crouched.
Could you imagine in your bedroom your apartment?
Wait.
In your bedroom at your apartment, you wake up, there's a dude pooping on your ceiling.
No, wait. You wake up.
Think about that, audience.
You wake up. You look up. There's a man crouched on your ceiling making eye contact with you, pooping on the ceiling. The eye contact just makes it so much better.
You're just like, and
Sam,
I'm gonna poop on your ceiling, man.
we're gonna pray for you.
Then he just climbs out the window from the ceiling. He walks across the ceiling.
You're making a joke? What if this actually happened tomorrow?
There was no apparent like human cause behind these things, and so I mean, like the walls were growling, people were being pushed around.
Wait, what?
Like
Somebody made that raccoon pretty
noise
upset.
in the walls, essentially. Odd smells. Lighting issues where like the lights would be flickering or like glowing and stuff like that. Dark shadows that would move. And then one fateful a light disturbance. It's a light disturbance. Quick.
Somebody's haunting us.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
So then there was this one very eventful night where supposedly the building seemed to come to life and the whole house was basically doing what it did with the doctor, shaking, rumbling, breaking glass. Ooh, scary. And when all of that was said and done, one man was found with a stake of wood stabbed through his heart, and the police found 2 more dead bodies in the basement. Again with the freaking basement.
Dun, dun, dun!
And so, as is, with history, it was hard to sell the building from after each event. It was interesting because back in the 1920s, Thomas Edison actually visited the house to test his machine that he was working on that could supposedly communicate with the dead. I would guess that probably didn't work too well. But
because you can't communicate with the dead.
with all the demon possessions and horrifying things that took place there, the building actually blew up in 1927 because of a local gas company making a mistake.
Oopsie-doopsie.
They did an oopsie-doopsie. And there's now a building that sits on it, the Carnegie Science Center, and it is said to still have experiences of residual energy from the land. All right, so Greg, after that debacle with the last story, what do you have?
But we never talked about the death chair. I just mainly just want to say that I really want to try it out because supposedly if you were to sit in the death chair, then you will die weeks later because it is cursed.
That's what I found too. But you know what? How they solve that? They hang the chair on the wall. It's like hanging on the wall.
I have heard a lot of things about a death chair. I don't know if it's the same one you guys are talking about, but people that would sit in a specific chair would die after like a week or 2 weeks or something. Or
Probably
everyone
the
who sat
same
in
chair.
Probably the same chair. So yeah, they hung it on a wall. And have you ever tried sitting on a chair on a wall? I haven't. I'm assuming it's pretty hard.
And you probably would die from falling off the chair.
Unless the house is on Gravity Hill.
Unless you were the man pooping on the ceiling and you just you just want to take a seat somewhere.
Well, maybe if you sit in the death chair, you become the man pooping on the ceiling.
You sit in it, you die.
I don't like any of this. Stop it.
Hello, I'm the guy on the ceiling.
But I just mainly wanted to say that as a white guy, I just really want to go try out this so I can.
Hey, so you know how my skin is this color? I want to go sit in a death chair. I want to die.
How about all those people that are sentenced to death row? Have them sit in the death chair and just test it out.
It'd be like a 50-50 raffle.
The problem with that is that. So, Greg, what else do you have for us today? On Pennsylvania Myths and Legends.
I have
Got him.
goblin story
Goblin story.
about a
Goblins?
monk.
Is it Green Goblin
No, it is not a green
from
goblin.
Spider-Man?
Nope.
Does he throw pumpkins?
No. He's not the Great Pumpkin from Charlie Brown.
Bro.
That's actually
This story is
disappointing.
actually pretty boring, so I don't know why I even bothered to read
give
it.
us a quick synopsis then.
No, it's actually kind of interesting, but it is very short. So
I like this story though.
it is kind of interesting. So this goblin story is about this monk that would, during the what is it called when he
Renaissance?
when people go to the
He
church.
was doing confessional.
Confessional. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
So when the monk would do confessions with rich people, he would take their stories and then blackmail them so he can make money off of them.
See, that is not a man of God.
He made
That's a man.
Go ahead.
Of Satan.
He made a lot of money off that.
He did make a lot of money off of it.
Well, think about it. You have all of the dirt on people because they feel obligated by religion to come and talk to you. But you are also just a human, which is just as flawed as they are.
And so, during that time,
That
everybody
was
felt
good
like
grammar.
they had to go talk to God. And so they go talk to a man of God. And then
You'd be like, so you know how you cheated on your wife last week? That doesn't have to be published in the newspaper if you give me $5 because it's really early time, so $5 is like $500.
So he would make a lot of money off of these rich people by blackmailing them. But then he eventually became even more corrupt and then beat a woman to death. And so from that, the townspeople killed him, basically.
They hung him.
So they made sure he was not going to blackmail anybody anymore. And then
Well, that's what happens when you take off. So you can blackmail like one or two rich people, but when you start blackmailing all of the rich people, rich people have power. Don't take them off.
But
They'll end up hanging you.
he was mainly hung just because he beat a woman to death.
Well, that too. If you start blackmailing rich people, you're definitely going to beat a woman to death.
So
That's the moral of this story.
the myth of the story is that he came back to life as a monk, or not a monk, but like as a goblin, and then he went back to the church that he was at, and then he killed his fellow monks
Whoa.
and like bit their heads
He
off.
ate
and
them.
Ate them and
Ate
everything.
3
else.
of them supposedly.
And then
What do you think goes through people's heads that start myths like this?
I need money. What can I make up to make a lot of money?
Do you think they made a lot of money, though?
I doubt it.
Yeah, me too. But I like that one.
It's a good classic revenge tale, right?
So, a
little bit
revenge
of-
tale of what? I'm a
little bit of
terrible
haunting spiciness at the end.
I'm a terrible person. The entire town kills me. I came back and murdered some monks.
Because they were the reason I died.
Yep.
They gave me away. They gave my position away.
So, to wrap up this wonderful Myths and Legends episode, we're going to take you to Elk County.
Elk County, Pennsylvania, USA.
Picture this, right? The state of Pennsylvania,
Okay, what is
right
it?
in the middle,
Okay.
and then a little bit north. It's like kind of like that's kind of where Elk County is. It's kind of like
so right in the middle, but north.
It's like upper.
It's like in the
Upper
top
Central.
right corner, but it's also right in the middle. But then, because of the gates of hell, it's actually on the bottom.
It'll teleport you to the other part of Pennsylvania. That's why you never make it through Gate 5. You
Yep.
teleport to the other side of Pennsylvania.
And then nobody goes to that part of Pennsylvania because it's Pennsylvania, guys.
Hey, you know what? Pennsylvania is actually quite nice.
I know it is.
I can tell you all the wonderful stories of my family growing up there.
We've been there like twice.
All right, so this legend begins 145 years from the time that this article was written. So I didn't do the math and qualify that, but
It's pretty recent.
it's
That's relatively recent.
this is from the Civil War,
Okay, Civil War.
which was in 1860 or like in
Okay.
the 1860s. So about 160 years now, roughly, give or take.
Okay.
About 160 years ago, and 175 miles southwest of the Elk County line, there was a payroll in transit
A payroll in transit.
to Union soldiers.
And we like the union.
The Union is the good guys.
How much are we talking? Do we have a price
Well-
price tag on this shipment of money?
In the today's money, it would be roughly in the realm of 20 to 30 million.
So who's getting paid?
a hefty amount of money being transported by one guy?
This is a group of guys this
Okay.
time. So this would have been, well, I'll just give you a quick preface. The legend says that a Union lieutenant by the name of Castleton was given orders in the spring of 1863 to proceed from Wheeling, West Virginia, which is on the Ohio-West Virginia border, to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with 2 wagons equipped with false bottoms holding the gold bars for payroll for the soldiers there in Harrisburg. And this was about the time of Gettysburg and crazy stuff is about to go down. He was ordered to travel northeast to avoid encountering General Robert E. Lee's Confederate army, which was massing towards the July Battle of Gettysburg. So
Okay.
they're moving north and to get into Union territory.
And the thing is, travel back then is not like, oh, instead of going on the I-90, I'm going to turn off on I-75 and then just avoid,
Right.
Georgia, because I know roads. That's exactly how that
and
works.
imagine this too.
Instead, it's like, so we have this wagon train.
Well, there's 2 wagons, but yeah, I mean, it's a wagon. It's a small wagon train.
A small wagon train. We have food for this amount of days.
Right. And Pennsylvania is extremely hilly.
Oh yeah.
So nowadays they've flattened areas. They've actually cut through mountains with dynamite to make, roads more level. But even with those improvements,
it's absolutely gorgeous when you crest a hill.
it's beautiful.
And you look out and you see all the trees and you go, wow.
It is absolutely
and it's like the
beautiful.
sunrise, and for some reason you're driving in the morning and you're like,
There's
why
fog
am I
over the
awake?
mountains.
Or I could
It's-
just talk about Norway and how that's just so much better.
Well, then move to Norway.
Yeah, move to Norway.
I would-
Actually, don't. Please
I
stay
would love
here.
to.
but
Please stay.
Norway's so much better.
but imagine going up these hills in a wagon. It's very
Could
crazy.
you imagine the oxen have? That's something we don't talk about, like the oxen, like going downhill.
That would be weird. Yeah, all the
Because
strain would be
they have
pushing
to-
forward.
They
They
just
have
hop
to
in the cart and they're like, all right, see you guys.
And are they transporting gold?
Well, they're transporting the gold in the false bottom of the.
Is it gold though?
Yeah, it'd be gold bars.
Okay.
Approximately 50 pounds each.
Oh wow.
Oh
wow.
Yeah, a lot of gold. So, one of the things to notice is that the other soldiers were actually not aware of the gold necessarily. Not all of them were.
That's a good idea.
And because of the current military situations that were occurring, they kind of had to take some backwards routes. There's a whole detailed layout
Itinerary.
of their approximate directions through these mountains where they would cut back and try and make it to this town and whatnot. But the person I mentioned earlier, the Lieutenant Castleton, he falls ill during this trip. He gets a high fever and becomes very delirious. So a Mr. Connors takes over command of the wagon train, and they try and make it to their destination. What ends up happening eventually is that in his sickness, Castleton reveals the location of the gold in the wagons. Mr. Connors assumes command again as Castleton falls ill again, and they set out, but this time, someone else knows that there's gold with this wagon train, and
Which is never good when you're in the middle of
it's
nowhere.
not a good
and
idea.
There's gold, because then you can make iPhones.
Things go south, and
There's a lot of gold in iPhones, dude.
that's true. Things go very poorly, and Mr. Connors and 2 men end up going ahead to a city to get help, and comes back 10 days later with a search party with the army, and they find only abandoned wagons.
Whoa.
Right. So supposedly the gold is buried somewhere in that region. They question Mr. Connors intensely to make sure that he wasn't the one that took the gold, because where there's motive and means, then there is
Suspects.
crime. I don't know.
Where there's motives and means, there's a crime.
Because Connors is the only survivor. Well, Connors and 1 man are the only survivor. They're of course the prime suspect because they left Castleton with the remaining men, and they split up. And Castleton has all the gold. Connors goes to the nearest city, and gets help. And so they actually made a search back in the 1800s, several instances where they searched for the gold, and they never were able to track it down. But that just leads to, a very legendary tale where treasure hunters from the turn of the century up to the present, with metal detectors and all sorts of, searching
The question with that is,
tactics.
let's say you're from the South and you find it. Is it your gold, or do you have to give it back to the Union? Who has right to that gold?
This is where it gets interesting.
It's mine.
Now, technically, there is some precedent for it to be yours, or at least that because you found it, you deserve a cut of it. For instance, in Europe, there's a lot of people that do treasure hunting when the Thames is at the low tide. They're called mudlarkers because they're crouched over, they're picking through the rocks. And they can keep just about anything that they find, but if it's older than 200 years, they have to report it to the or the London Museum, or the museum. I don't know. I think it's the London Museum. And they'll document it. And if it's something of historical significance, they'll keep it. But they have to pay you its value. So if it's a $5,000 gold ring, you get $5,000 or 5,000 pounds because it's Europe money. But
so actual,
So you don't
good money.
Lose out on anything.
Right. So you don't lose out on anything. And of course, you also get the credit. So if it's ever put on display, your name is actually accredited to the piece.
And see, what I've heard is actually if you are deep sea diving and you find a wrecked ship, depending on who owned the ship back in the day, they get to claim it. That's what I heard.
Interesting.
And so that you can get nothing to it.
Well, it's tricky business because there's a lot of different things when it comes to treasure hunting, because there's international waters, there's owned waters. A good example of this, the best example that I know of, back in the day, back in like the 1700s, along the coast of Florida, there's, I think, 12 Spanish treasure ships that came from Asia down through South America around around Cape Horn, and they're loaded with treasure from South America and Asia. They get hit by a hurricane off the coast of Florida. All of them sink except for one. One limps back to Europe, and they are still presently at the bottom of the ocean. 6 have been found, and there's, I think, another one being excavated now that they believe is the flagship, carrying 1,000 chests of silver.
Wow.
Now, I think this was probably back in like the 40s or 50s maybe, some guy who'd been researching it, some treasure hunter, bought the rights from the government or from the state to have the sole salvage rights to that stretch of land, from the water's edge to the ocean. So if you go to that beach along the stretch of land that he technically owns, you can't metal detect in the water. You can, when the water recedes at low tide, you can metal detect all that shore. When the water comes up, it's his, because he owns the salvage rights in the water.
That's crazy.
He's since died, but his children and his crew have taken over. And it's amazing because when a hurricane comes in, like this last one, metal detectorists swarm those beaches. And some guy just this year found, I think he found like 60 gold coins, and they're from these wrecks. And each one is worth $20,000 to $30,000.
Oh my
Dang.
gosh.
So he's
6 times $20,000 is
Bitcoin.
60 coins.
Oh, I'm sorry.
60 coins times 20 or 30,000. It's
It's like
crazy.
Bitcoin back in the day.
Yeah, pretty much.
So going back to this story, right, where you're right, the treasure that's buried in these hills is technically government money. It was government payroll.
Technically, we don't know,
Right.
but it was probably buried in the hills.
Probably. That's what the legend says anyways. Now, it gets curious because, this was fairly recently, as I understand it, but there's a father and son team that's hunting for this treasure. They've devoted their life. They spent $20,000 as
Wow.
treasure hunters to search for just this treasure. And they believe they found it. They'd been doing some research and they'd been doing some searching, and this was a government-owned land. It's like a preserve or like a national forest region. And so they had to find a way, going through all the legal loopholes and such, to actually get into that region to dig. And in doing so, the FBI shows up.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I love when that happens.
So there's actually a full-on court-sanctioned excavation, which the FBI oversees. There's digging for days on end, and this is in the middle of winter, so it's cold, icy, and miserable. And at the end of it all, the FBI invites up the father and son to come over and look at this hole. Supposedly, from my understanding, they actually got a signal, whether with a metal detector or ground penetrating radar. They got a signal that indicated there was a massive amount of gold in this spot. So they've excavated all of this, and the FBI personally brings them up in what actually turns out to be kind of a humiliating situation. They like, come here, look at this hole. The hole is empty, you dummies, basically is what happened. In interviews, the father and son both say how stupid they were made to feel about this whole treasure thing. Now,
sounds like a Men in Black situation.
Right. And so that all gets packed up. The FBI leaves, and yeah, the file for this investigation is still under wraps. You can't actually access it to see what's going on. But there's an interesting take that I found, because there's the New York Times article, and then there was a local newspaper article from the area. And and a lot of the locals actually think that there was, or claim to have seen, night digging, like lights on at night up in the hills with noises of digging and such like that. So the rumor is that possibly the FBI managed to find the gold much sooner than the treasure hunters ever could, by digging at night. And yes, it was kind of cryptic when they left. When the FBI ended up packing up, saying that there was nothing there, they said it was
like an older sibling being like, I don't know who took the last Reese's Pieces.
Right.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like, you're so dumb for thinking there were more Reese's. Like, you're stupid. I have no idea. And then, like, they turn around, there's like 6 of them hanging out in their back pocket.
Why would there be only one Reese PC left?
See, I meant Reese's in general, like the cups, and then I said Reese's Pieces, which is a small M&M, and yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Right. But the interesting thing is, as it goes deeper, is that the federal agents, as they're wrapping up and leaving, they kind of cryptically like tack on to the end of their whole like farewell that this whole thing that they were doing was part of a quote unquote ongoing investigation. And then they declined any further comment. And all court documents related to the dig are still sealed.
Okay.
This is a fairly recent thing, so I don't know when, you can actually like access them, or if there's like freedom of information after a certain time. But it's very suspicious. And so
it smells fishy to me.
So all we really know is that back in 1863, on the verge of the Battle of Gettysburg, one of the major deciding factors of the outcome of the Civil War, a lone wagon train goes off and has to divert from a probably well-known trail into the wilds of Pennsylvania, where their leader falls ill. They separate, one with 20 million modern gold and the other with only the hope of bringing help back. And so the rest gets lost to mystery and legend, where modern treasure hunters are tracking down this gold. And I think that there's probably a gold legend similar to this in every state. I mean, Ohio has some that we covered in the Ohio Myths and Legends episode that we did, but with this one...
So guys, there's chests of gold everywhere. You just got to find the right map.
It could be in your backyard. I would start digging, even if your
Just
parents
start
tell
digging,
you.
yeah.
People buried coins in the
Don't
Great
do that.
Depression to say they didn't trust the banks during the Great Depression. People buried
I still don't
gold
trust
coins.
banks. I chiseled somewhere in my apartment peeled up the carpet, chiseled through the concrete, buried all my money, put the carpet back over it.
And poured concrete back over it.
Right here.
My name's John Wick.
Yeah. So with this one, though, in particular, it got the attention of the FBI. They were digging on federal land, and who knows? Maybe the FBI found the gold before the treasure hunters. Maybe they did that intentionally and said,
Could you imagine an FBI agent in a suit digging?
yeah, I don't think that was them.
Yeah, probably not.
But you just kind of have to imagine, like,
Is that the sound?
Maybe-
I don't know
FBI
why he would
makes?
be like laughing like that. This gold's mine, sucker.
It's actually leprechauns.
holy mackerel. Maybe their ongoing investigation was they were investigating local leprechaun legends. And when they found the pot of gold, the leprechauns jumped out. They arrested them. And then they're like, well, we can't tell everybody about this. And then,
Leprechauns are real.
We can't
Yeah.
let them know that
Tricks
they're
are
real.
for kids.
but I mean, I suppose there could be some conspiracy theory wrapped around the fact that this was union government payroll. And so the FBI, in taking it, was just eliminating the possibility of having to pay some sort of reward.
They took it to pay off the terrorists.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the CIA, not the FBI. The FBI wants what's best for this country. The
Right.
CIA does what is
the
also
CIA
best for
does
this country.
like MK Ultra and Bay of Pigs and whatever else you want to talk about.
Which is in reality is kind of good for most Americans.
To not know about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know about it.
You don't want to know about those things. Don't go down that rabbit hole.
We're gonna die.
I'm still alive unless this is the death show and you're not telling me.
The glass just
Yes.
shatters and just.
What's that weird red dot on your forehead?
Huh?
So yeah, that's the Elk County Gold legend. The legend of the Elk County Gold. That might be a better way of saying that.
That is the myths of Pennsylvania.
And that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on This Podcast is Lava, episode number 30. We're getting close to a year here shortly. It's October 10th, the day of this recording.
Mhm.
This will go up in a couple of weeks, but we're getting close to a full year. Thank you so much for joining us, Greg. It was good to have you. We might have to have you on again if you're so willing to drive an hour or 2 hours.
I would love to. I appreciate you having me.
So be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram for updates on what's going on, pictures and whatnot. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and PodBean. You can watch us on YouTube. I think it's James Fox Podcast, or just type in This Podcast is Lava, or TPIL. If you have a question for us, a topic you want us to cover, or if you even want to be on the podcast, you can message us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at thispodcastislava@gmail.com.
You can also get your awesome This Podcast is Lava coasters by doing the exact same thing.
So if you want a coaster, be sure to
Get
message
one
us
now.
and get one for yourself, or 2 or 3 or 4. Who knows? Christmas is coming up eventually.
There's some in my chair. There's some in the air. There's some in your hair. What a flare. I'm basically Dr. Seuss over here. Bars!
Thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful morning, noon, or night. You're supposed to say bye now, Sam.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
I feel like that was a good podcast.
That was a